So one of the things that everybody's told about English when they're in school or they're learning it as a second language or whatever is there's a few things that you're commonly told that are just not true about English. One of them is that English has plurals and singulars. Um, this is really easy to demonstrate as false, right? Because what plural means more than one, right? So if I have one dog, that's not more than one. Two dogs. So what's claimed to be the plural marker is this s suffix. 3 dogs, 1,000 dogs. You can make this any number larger than 1, I'll get the s. Okay? So it looks like a plural at this point. Now, if this were French, that s would actually be a plural. So there are languages with this apparently exact same suffix, and it is a plural. Problem is, in English, if I have no dog, I get the s again. 0 is less than 1. This is not plural. So this is not plural. What ends up happening is, if we look at just this pattern, it looks like we have a singular and a non-singular. Right, so these two are non-singular. But it's worse than this. So not only English doesn't have a plural, we just demonstrated that, but it gets worse than this. Where are you going, camera? The most janky setup here. So I can say things like dogs have 4 legs, right? Like this. So there's the S. Well, there's another instance of the S. And here it's acting like these guys, right? It looks like a plural marker for sure here. Is this really a plural marker? No, it isn't, because we're talking about the category dog. And we can demonstrate this by actually saying this whole thing without the S, right? Oops, if I know how to write things. A dog has 4 legs. Right? A dog has 4 legs is the same meaning as dogs have 4 legs. Same meaning. This doesn't have to be marked with the S at all. Now, there's another layer to this weirdness. This S that we have over here on dogs, it's actually showing up in this sentence. Right here. On the verb. If this S is a number marker, grammatical number marker, for nouns, why is it showing up on a verb? And just from this one example, it's perfectly reasonable to be exceptionally skeptical of my claim here that that's what that is, right? Like, I get you. I get you. But say we've got, like, the dogs are running. Okay, so that looks like a plural marker. Sure. It kind of fits our classical, like, yeah, the S is marking plurals. That makes sense with this sentence. That analysis makes sense here. If I change this to no dogs are running, well, now it's clearly not a plural marker anymore, right? Because no dogs is not plural. It's less than one. So we're kind of back to this thing. So, okay, let's say it's a non-singular. Well, what if I do this? The dog is running. So now this is singular. So it's definitely not plural. And we lost the S. Did we? What are you doing, camera? Oh, janky setup. Janky setup. Come on. Stay there, you little cheeky bastard. Where are you going? Stay there. What if I do this? Will this help? That might help. I don't know. Okay, so still, like, I can get why you're like, well, why are you thinking that that S is the same as that S? Well, there's a very simple principle at play here. If you have two things that sort of look like the same thing, and it can only appear once in a particular context, but it can move around, it's probably the same thing. So just, why assume that this S with a singular subject noun, both of these guys, why assume that this S is different when it could be the same thing? Could be the same thing. So let's just assume that it is. All right. Now let's look at the meaning of this guy. All right. So this is often considered to be present tense in English. Is it really? So if I say this, and I read this out in English words, 6 plus 4 is 10, right? Well, there we go. There's is. Here's our subject, and it's a sort of a clause going on here. So is this singular or plural, or does that category not even make sense? The category doesn't even make sense here, but we're still getting this guy. And what's happening? Is this present tense? No, this is eternally true, right? This is always true. It's not true right at this second. It's true always. And really, when you look at it, that's what's happening. It's true always whenever you have is. Like, if I say something like this with no context, what it will actually mean, and this might break your brain to think about it this way, but if you allow just this sentence with no context, it means that the dog is always running. It's a weird meaning because you know dogs can't do that, but that's really what's happening here. It's what this sentence is. The reason that it escapes that sort of meaning is because logic. Like, dogs have to stop at some point and do other things. But if I said, the computer is running, well, now it can sort of do that. Once you turn it on and it's, there you go. Unless there's a power outage or it breaks, it's going to be running forever. So if I change this to something that can more reasonably actually operate forever, suddenly that meaning comes through. So what this guy is doing, it's not a present tense, it's an always, right? It's happening always. So now, what is really occurring here? I would say that this S it's a de-specifier, right? So the reason it's not showing up here is because this is very specific. One dog, very specific dog. The dog, very specific dog. Here, dogs, we're thinking of members of the category non-specifically. So we get an S on it. Here we have two dogs, so it's not a specific dog, it's some group of dogs, so it's not a specific individual. 0 dogs, not a specific individual. Here, a dog has 4 legs. So what this means is each specific individual of the category of dog possesses 4 legs. And even on that, on possesses, that z at the end, it's this. So we get that eternal truth coming through, right? Eternal truth, but here it's tied to the noun instead of. And when you look at like a tree of this sentence, you can see what's happening is that the S will de-specify at the highest level that it can, and then via C command, that de-specification will be inherited, right? So these are both eternal, right? Like, so I can make another sentence where we don't have is, we get, like are or something. That's an eternal truth sort of thing. There's no verb tense. There's no verb aspect. There's nothing going on that way. It's just always, forever true. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so if you have like a plural subject or a non-singular subject, a de-specified subject, but you're referring to an eternal truth, like the dogs are mine, these dogs belong to me, that's always true. That's not a present tense. Right? What ends up happening is the subject is kind of higher up in the tree than the verb, but it C commands the verb. So that de-specification is inherited, and in order to kind of not get that inheritance meaning, you have to override it somehow. So we can override it by dropping on verbal morphology, like ing or ed or whatever on the main verb. But that's not what's happening in this one. So it gets inherited. So here the meaning, the verb meaning is also de-specified because of this. Here the subject is specified. So I have to mark the despecification on the verb actively, so I get the S, right? So if I do something like this, see, is that actually in frame? Yeah. She runs fast. Boom. Not present tense. This is an eternal truth. She's fast. She's good at running. She's fast. Until something happens to her that is outside of this general context that I've set up here. She always runs fast. So S, it's not only is it not a plural marker, it's not even a noun. It's not number marking at all. It's not for nouns. It has a much broader general use, and that is just to despecify whatever it's on. And if it's on a subject, it will naturally also despecify the verbal meaning, right? So that we don't get a tense, we don't get it, it's just an eternal truth is what it refers to. Right. So that's one thing that I run into commonly trying to explain how English works when I'm teaching it. And when students understand what I'm saying here, suddenly they're able to use this correctly pretty much all over the place, pretty much automatically, without thinking about it, because this is how it really works.